Greetings. My name is Molina, and I'm with the Life Puro. Today, I get to talk to Ralph Valdez with Perdomo. He's our national sales manager, so I'm really excited. So with that, Ralph, thanks for coming in today.
Pleasure.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we're excited. So you would come in. What we'd like to do here is just feature whatever and talk about whatever cigar we have today. So I don't know what you can tell me about this cigar. I know it's probably Nick's favorite, right?
That's one of Nick's favorite cigars. That's our 20th anniversary sun-grown Epicure. It was made to commemorate our company's 20th year in business. And it's 100% Nicaraguan Puro. All binder, wrappers, and fillers have been grown in our farms in Nicaragua. We use 8-year aged tobacco, and we have basically 6 different sizes that we make that blend in.
I know, I was watching some of Perdomo's social media content right. As y'all were coming in. And I'm smoking what I saw Nick was smoking on that behind the scenes one that y'all did, I guess a year ago, which by the way, that was really informative. And I love how Perdomo, for maybe people watching or listening who don't know cigars, Perdomo's based out of Nicaragua, very family oriented. I've had a chance to go to their factory tour twice.
Nice.
And I always tell our customers, out of all the factories I've been on, because I've been to all the major countries and their factory tours, I think Perdomo does it the best in terms of like attacking it more from an academic approach.
Thank you.
Very informative. I mean, I even learn something new every time I go. But I know, watching one of the videos that Nick was on with the behind the scenes in the warehouse and you in your headquarters in Miami.
Right. That's our distribution center over there.
Yeah, this is the first cigar he was smoking. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it got me curious. So this was done to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the company?
Yes.
Okay.
20th year in business.
Yeah. And it's an ongoing, it's not like a limited production per se or an annual release. It's always available.
It's ongoing regular production item.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say is a strength if you want to describe like the profile of it?
I would say medium to full.
Okay.
Our sun-growns are known for their pronounced spice. So it's got a nice spice to it on the finish. And it's medium plus. It's very difficult to make a mild cigar using Nicaraguan tobaccos because the grounds that we grow on are so rich in nutrients and volcanic soil that it's almost impossible to make just a straight mild cigar.
Yeah.
So, for example, with our champagne line, we use Nicaraguan binders and fillers, and then we use an Ecuadorian Connecticut seed wrapper that rounds off the cigar and gives it that nice, creamy, smooth finish.
That reminds me, I know Nick is always promoting the fact that Perdomo strives to be a vertically integrated company, meaning doing everything in-house, right? From growing the tobacco, rolling the cigars, importing, any part of the supply chain, if he can get his hands on, he really wants that control.
We control everything, seed to ash. We have about 1,800 acres that we grow our tobacco on. We have a main factory and 2 satellite factories in Nicaragua, and we employ about 4,200 employees between our box factory, our production factory, our 2 satellite factories, and our fields.
Yeah. When did you start in this business?
Myself personally?
Yeah, you.
I'm a retired police officer. After 28 years, I retired in 2013. And I've known Nick for many years prior to retiring, and I've been smoking cigars since I was 19. I'm 54 now. So I had an opportunity to get into the business, and I started as an in-house sales rep in Miami, working in the headquarters office.
Okay.
And then started learning the business and the intricacies of the business and the operation in Nicaragua and how that works for about 2.5 years. Then did a little bit of work as a brand ambassador for our brands, traveling throughout the country, representing our brands at events and cutting lights and whatnot. And then my most recent position I've been in for like the last 3 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you prefer the cigar industry over to law enforcement?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
But police work nowadays is not what it was when I started back in the 80s.
I hear that sentiment from so many of our clients, right, who were in law enforcement, and that seems to be the sentiment I get too, is that it's just not the same. And yeah, in light of like the last 5, maybe 10 years of just the cultural view and shift, towards law enforcement, it just seems that now you guys are like the roles have been reversed, that the police are the bad guys.
Right.
So I mean, it's disheartening for me too, especially since so many of our clients are, are law enforcement or former military. I mean, they go hand in hand, right?
With us as a company, we have a huge following of law enforcement, firefighters, military.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess you're not seeing any or having any complaints working in the cigar trade now.
No. Yeah. Very happy.
What law enforcement did you work, or what department?
I retired from a South Florida agency, the city of Hialeah.
Okay.
Back in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's Hialeah. Is that in the same county as Miami proper?
Correct. Yeah. It's a municipality within Miami-Dade County.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I always just looking at our invoices from other manufacturers. Right. I'll see sometimes that city name, and I'm just not familiar with the geography as much.
It's about 10 minutes north of Miami International Airport.
Okay.
Yeah. Very, very big city. It's the third largest city in the state of Florida.
And where is Perdomo headquarters based? In that same city?
In Miami Lakes, just north of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Miami Lakes, just north of that. So it's right off the 57th Avenue, which is Red Road, and 167th Street.
Yeah. And how long has it been? When did you start with Perdomo?
2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to give you a little bit background of myself, I started in the trade in 2003.
Okay.
And I worked for a local cigar shop in Metairie, which is a suburb of New Orleans. And that was in the August of 2003. And it was around that same time, my first exposure to Perdomo was the Lot 23. I think they had just released it in 2003.
Right.
And I was still new to the cigar industry from like a professional standpoint. I'd been smoking since 96.
Okay.
But not really knowing a lot about the industry. Now that I was in it.
Right.
Just hearing, and seeing things from within, I just remember the Lot 23 to me, and I could be wrong, I'm sure you and Nick have more insight, but the Lot 23 really changed it for Perdomo, I think. Do you know that history? Or
I do.
Yeah.
It's a very special brand to the company, and a brand that Nick holds very near and dear to his heart because it's the last project that he worked on with his dad before his dad passed away in 2004. And it's a unique line because very similar to like a single vineyard wine where all the grapes for the wine are grown on the same plot of land. Lot 23, specifically on the Maduro and the sun-grown, wrapper binder and filler leaves are all grown in the same plot of land. The only exception to that is in the Connecticut, we use an Ecuadorian Connecticut seed wrapper.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the few parts of the supply chain you guys don't have control, right? Is the Ecuador Connecticut wrapper. I don't know. I know you had the Cameroon.
We still do produce a Petite Corona in our Cameroon that's got its original Cameroon wrapper from Cameroon, Africa.
Okay.
And it's got over 20 years of age on it. So it's a phenomenal little cigar.
Wait, that wrapper on average is aged about 20 years?
Yes.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
And that cigar is available still in the market?
It's still in current production. We don't have any in stock right now.
Okay.
But it's still a current production item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, and what's amazing too, like during these tours, Nick will show or Arthur Kemper, I guess. Those are the two lead guys, I guess, with the tour guys.
Nick's obviously our president CEO. Arthur's our vice president, who's also a wealth of knowledge. He's been with the company for about 23 years now.
Yeah, just going through the warehouse of the tobacco stock. I mean, it's overwhelming. Yeah. Just to see that inventory. Yeah. And I love that little anecdote Nick will proclaim about how the accountants, complain and get on his back like you just have too much tobacco. Yeah. But I mean, to me, I don't think that's a negative. And I mean, you can give some insight.
We age all our tobacco. We don't rush the process. We let the tobacco ferment till it's ready, and then after that, when the tobacco's rolled, it goes in the cigars get placed in 50-count wheels, and they're placed in aging rooms for an extended period of time to allow the cigars to adjust to humidity and temperature, and for the flavors between the wrapper, binder, and filler to marry with each other before we band them and put them inside of boxes. So it's a pretty intricate production. And what you're referring to as far as our tobacco warehouses, we age tobacco because we have certain lines like the one we're smoking right now that this tobacco has all been aged for a minimum of 8 years. We have other lines that our tobacco's been aged for 12 years, and our most recent release, which is to commemorate our 30th anniversary in business and as a company, and Nick's and Janine's involvement in the cigar industry, the 30th anniversary cigar was released, and that's all 15-year age tobacco. Yeah.
And to give a sense to listeners, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or Francis, the average cigar on the market, or what the consumer can get on the shelf, typically the tobacco on those cigars aged like 3 to 4 years. is what I found. Maybe 5 years
from other manufacturers.
Yeah, as a whole. I'm talking about the industry as a whole.
Right.
And so I'm just bringing that up because to me, I mean, that's what the consumer, to me, gets more value from a Perdomo, because a lot of the tobacco, or at least the anatomy in a lot of these lines, are aged higher than average or longer than average.
Right.
So, I mean, and to me, like, the price point, I think, is very fair for the consumer.
That's
Even
one of the
like
things we're known for.
Yeah, the $10 to $15 range, I think it certainly smokes like a $20+ range.
Long.
Yeah.
All day long. Our newest release, the 30th anniversary, getting back to that, is retail price point. We have 5 different sizes available. Is $12 to $14 a cigar.
Oh, wow.
Which could be easily compared to cigars that are currently on the market selling for $25, $30 a cigar. Mm-hmm. Hands down. But as a company, we're known for our price points. And one of the things that Nick's dad imparted on him when they started the business is make good quality, consistent products, stand behind the products, and always keep them affordable so that everybody can enjoy them.
Yeah. And that leads me to, I guess, another point with the company. They're so family oriented. And I know Nick and his father, I mean, just a great bond, and both of them, I guess, grew the business way back when in the 90s.
Right.
Just hearing the stories during the tours that Nick recounts, like just when they were starting out, finding the spot in Nicaragua.
Even before that, when they initially started, Nick was an air traffic controller.
Okay.
He was trained in the Navy as an air traffic controller, and then he worked as air traffic controller at Miami International. And he basically started the business with his wife, with Janine, out of the garage of their home as a means to supplement their income. Wow. Because he's a third generation tobacconist. His father and grandfather were both in the cigar industry in Cuba, and he always wanted to pursue that. And, when he first told his dad was like, "Are you crazy? You got a great job. It's a government job. You got great pension." And he's like, "This is something that I really am passionate about and I want to do." And fast forward, 31 years now, we're one of the top 3 family-owned and operated cigar manufacturers in the country.
Yeah. I mean, I guess because of some of those philosophical points of maintaining quality, maintaining control. That was the one thing I remember during the pandemic and the lockdowns, when we try to source product from other manufacturers. A lot of times we saw the back orders. But with Perdomo, it was very almost seamless. Like, there was rarely that interruption. I'm sure you guys had some, but can you give me some insight into that?
A lot of that has to do with the fact of what you brought up earlier, that we're a vertically integrated company. We grow our own tobacco. We ferment our own tobacco. We age our own tobacco. A lot of people are not aware of the fact that every single cigar that we make, we draw test prior to it going inside of a box. We bourbon barrel age the wrappers of all our cigars for 8 months on Connecticut, 10 months on Sun-Grown, and 14 months on Maduro, which is an extra, basically a second fermentation process that improves the flavor, the aroma, color, and texture of the wrapper of the cigar. So there are extra steps that are taken along the process to keep that quality control at the highest point, or at the highest level. And then, the issues that we dealt with are issues that everybody else dealt with, but they're mostly supply chain issues.
Okay.
So being vertically integrated, we make our own boxes. We have a box factory in our main factory in Nicaragua. We make all our own cellophane tubes. We design all our artwork, but we don't print it. We use an offshore company in Holland that does our printing of all our paper products, bands for the cigars, the vistas for the boxes, the artwork for the boxes, but we design the graphics and send them to them, and then they ship them from Holland to Nicaragua, where they get applied on cigars and shipped to our distribution center in the U.S.
And I don't know if it's public information or you can relay, or if you know. I know the major printing house in Europe is, I'm sure I'm butchering the pronunciation, Vredag?
Vredag.
Okay.
Vredag, yes.
Is that who you guys
Yes.
use? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but the industry uses them like for the high-end bands. And I only know this because we actually have been releasing our own brands.
Okay.
And so we were shopping, the big 3.
Right.
How do you pronounce it? Vredag?
Vredag.
Okay. Yeah. Them, cigar rings, and action. And 2 reasons why we didn't go with the Europeans.
Yeah.
One, it's the time, the turnaround. It's just a lot longer.
Right.
And then 2, cost. It's just a lot more, but you're getting what you pay for. It's just beautiful band work?
They use gold foils in their
Okay.
printing. They use holograms, and they use embossed printing. So it's very high end, very high quality, and it just catches your eye, especially when you display the cigars under LED lights. The cigars almost jump out of the box at you when you first see them.
Okay.
Because the hologram and the gold foils and the printing capture the light, and it just makes the cigar pop.
Yeah. But I understand, like, other manufacturers, usually a reason for the holdup during the lockdowns was maybe they couldn't get the bands. Other
Perfect
issues
example,
with the supply chain.
a lot of other manufacturers that don't have their own box factories, for example, during COVID, since we were talking about the main box factory that's in Honduras was shut down for about 5 months. They had zero production on boxes, and they produce boxes for a lot of the big manufacturers that don't have their own box factories. So when the box factory opened back up, not only were they playing catch up for 5 months of zero production, but also for the increase in sales over that 5-month period of time, which was incredible. Wow. During COVID, and that's why things got backed up, as much as they did.
Yeah. How are, from your point of view, how are things in terms of like the industry? Still, you kind of alluded to like the sales, and
the sales are very strong still. We still haven't seen a dip to sales to pre-COVID numbers. So the cigar industry is very strong. We've increased our production. We stopped production on 4 limited production lines that we had when COVID first hit, so that we could ramp up our production, because as a company, we're known for our excellent shipping, and we don't back order products. I mean, sometimes you may be out of a SKU, but it's usually rarely for more than a week at a time.
Okay, that's not bad.
Because we get a container about every 10 business days to replenish our inventory. So if you're missing, let's say, out of an order that you placed today, 2-3 boxes, no more than 7 business days later, you're going to get a phone call saying, hey, your back order's in, it's ready to ship. So
yeah, no, I mean, just Perdomo is one of those, and it's not just because you guys are here in studio today, but your company was one of the few that I could just rely as a retailer on, sourcing product like during those times, and even today. We're still seeing problems with other manufacturers, and I'm sure this mostly factors out of their control, but maybe they're just not as vertically integrated as Perdomo is, and maybe that's the difference.
There all kinds of different, especially during the peak of COVID, all kinds of different challenges came up. One that just popped into my mind is our containers come from Nicaragua into the port of Miami.
Okay.
And then they were having an issue with truckers. So the port is union controlled. So there were times when our container would arrive and it'd be sitting in the port of Miami, and we'd have to wait 5 days or maybe longer for them to get a trucker assigned to move it 8 miles from the port of Miami to our loading dock.
Okay. Oh, man.
And, people were like, well, why don't you guys buy your own truck and go over there and pick it up and bring it? But, well, if it wasn't for the fact that the port was union controlled and we could just go in there and grab our container and bring it, we would, but that's not the case. So,
have you ever considered, or has anyone in Perdomo considered even having to use another port? But that would probably add more time or costs?
It would add more time. The next nearest port would be Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
But those problems have been resolved, and now we're getting our containers in a timely manner. That was really during the peak of COVID when we were having those issues.
So things are kind of calm now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just got a container in Miami this past Friday. So
okay.
Everything on schedule.
Now, I guess similarly, what are you seeing in terms of cigar shops? Are you seeing more shops opening now, the same, or decreasing?
I'm seeing more shops pop up sporadically, and especially in areas that have a lack of cigar stores.
Okay.
We just visited with a gentleman earlier, and he's opened up a very nice shop in an area where he's the only shop in town. If you want cigars, that's where you have to go in his town. And just like that in that area, they're popping up all over the place.
Wow.
The demand for cigars, it's like a mini boom of the 90s, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know, just having talked to reps over the years and sales directors, sometimes you'll see these shops open up like in these very rural or very less populated spots.
Right.
But I mean, sometimes they can be very successful.
Absolutely.
Because they're the only player in town. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I always found that intriguing. You don't just have, if someone's ever interested in opening a cigar shop, obviously you want to be in a high population, but sometimes those less populated areas can be a good strategy as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
but we were talking before we were on camera. You know, one of our biggest challenges, I'm sure you hear this from other retailers, is finding help, finding staffers, tobacconists to help operate the sales. Is that what you're hearing a lot from other retailers too?
I travel
As a challenge?
throughout the country with our sales team, and I hear it a lot, pretty much in every state that I go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that's probably in other industries as well. Just people, it's tough to find.
In the food industry, it's pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
Pretty much everywhere. Things, are getting to the point, especially now, where a lot of that extra money that was being funneled to people during COVID and stuff as assistance from the government and whatnot is going away, has gone away. People are basically having to go back to work to make ends meet. But there's still people that, don't want to work.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge because you want to be selective of who you employ because they're interacting with your customer base, and you want your customers to have a positive experience when they come to your place. So you want to make sure you have people who are professional, who are clean cut at least, who show up and are reliable, and every day it's becoming more difficult to find those kind of people.
I mean, that's what I tell our hires. Like whenever they show up to a shift, I thank them right away.
Yeah.
Just thank you for showing up. Like that's the first step. And we've had to go through our revolving door, times of someone just didn't work out because they just wouldn't show up one day,
Right.
or just not even like call in or at least be vocal about, hey, I'm gonna be running late or what have you.
Right.
So it's just frustrating. But I guess that's why still in this industry, a lot of the brick and mortars are run by the owners.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of the bigger operations because of multiple locations and whatnot have to venture out and have managers and employees and whatnot, but a lot of the single and double shops are still basically family run and operated.
Yeah,
and that usually works out really well because who can you trust better than your family running and looking after your business?
But just to kind of underscore the point of what's going on in our industry, at least from our store's performance, we're seeing growth. So that trend just still hasn't slowed down. I guess
it hasn't.
The industry was kind of wondering, like, all right, is this lockdown phenomenon just a one-off, or what will the outlook be of for the industry?
Nobody knew what to expect, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, even us as manufacturers, we were like, we don't know what's going to happen, and it just turned out that it worked out in the favor of the cigar industry as a whole.
Yeah.
But if you sit back and you analyze, and we were talking about this earlier, if with COVID and the shift of working from your office or from your place of employment to working from home, what happened was a lot of the people who are regular traditional cigar smokers that maybe smoke 1 or 2 cigars a day now working from home are smoking more, and when they go to buy their cigars at their local cigar shop. If they bought 10 cigars at a time out of fear that the next time they go buy their cigars, the shop was going to be closed, they were buying a box or 2 at a time. And it wasn't an issue as far as money was concerned because they were still making the same amount of money if they were still employed doing the same job. And they really weren't going out to dinner. They weren't going on vacation. They had to spend their money on something. It might as well be something they enjoyed.
Yeah.
And that's why I think you saw the increase that you did in the cigar industry.
Yeah. To shift gears a little bit, what's it like working for a family business like Perdomo?
It's a great experience. In my former career, I worked for a government agency, so everything is pretty standardized, and you're
bureaucratic.
You're bureaucratic, and you're a number. But working for our company, it's more like a family. And our sales team, we have 18 sales reps throughout the country. That service the entire United States for us, and they're all part of the family. We're a close knit group. We talk every day. We go to our trade shows. We have dinners together.
Yeah.
We train every year in our annual sales meeting. Our sales reps are always constantly talking to each other, talking with us in the office. So it's a close knit group. We're a close knit family, and they're a great family to work for. Nicholas, who's Nick's son, is our national sales director. He's my supervisor. I work directly under him. Arthur Kemper's been with the company for 23 years in this month, and prior to that, he worked on the retail side.
Club Humidor.
He managed one of Club Humidor stores in the mall in San Antonio for several years, so he knows the challenges on the retail side that our business partners deal with, and he's always mindful of those things because, he worked in that retail environment for a long period of time.
To me, that's so refreshing that, a manufacturer like Perdomo has that insight, right? I think too many times, and this is probably more from like the corporate type of giants, right? That a lot of these executives are just manning the decision, or, coming up with these decisions from an ivory tower, not really understanding the needs of, people like us that are independent, small business, family run. It's just, sometimes I feel like a number to some of these companies, but knowing that Perdomo has that insight, especially like from Arthur, who worked at retailer, can really understand like the needs, the pros and cons of people like us.
And we're a strong team. I mean, to give you an example, when we get a container, Nick's back there unloading the container with us. Arthur, me, Nelson, who's our operations director, Nicholas is back there. We're all hands on deck unloading the container. We do that every time a container comes in. When we go to the trade shows, other companies, they pay companies to come out and set up everything for them, put their product out. We do it all.
Wow.
So we're real hands-on, and we work good together. And, I mean, we're not above, anybody else. So if something needs to be done and it needs to be done for the betterment of the company, we're going to do it.
No, I love how Perdomo is engaged at the trade shows. I mean, everyone's just professional, but they're not but they're still approachable, right? Not like these ivory tower companies, I call them, that they don't know who the customer is, essentially. I mean, of course they have a sales rep, right? But but that's it. Like, that's the only like face that if you're a retailer.
Right.
So it's nice to go into y'all's booth. I think you helped me out. If it wasn't this past year, the previous year. So even though, maybe our rep, and it was my fault too. I didn't do the reservation or appointment.
Right.
But I just kind of knew that, look, I know I can just come in and someone from Perdomo will help me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We usually have, people there as overflow. We have our reps. We usually, depending on the show, anywhere between 6 to 8 reps that have pre-booked appointments.
Okay.
And they're just doing their appointments with their customers as the customers come in. And we usually have about 2 or 3 floaters that are floating around in case we get walk-in traffic so that we can assist them.
Yeah.
And, we try not to keep people waiting for an extended period of time.
What are your thoughts on the trade show being moved to, is it March or April?
March.
Okay.
So it'll be March of 24 in Vegas.
Okay.
And my understanding is for sure 25 is going to be in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And possibly 26. I haven't gotten confirmation of
that,
but it'll be a nice change. I mean, Vegas is a nice venue, and it's convenient because the way it's set up, where basically you can stay in the hotel and you never even have to go outside the property to walk into the convention center. But not everybody is on the West Coast. I mean, it's convenient to people that are in the mid-United States and on the West Coast of the United States. But, with the way that the show was structured before, being in July, that's most people on the East Coast peak selling season. And to get away, 4th of July weekend and stuff, to go to the trade show makes it a little bit of a challenge. And I think that the folks at PCA have made a very good decision by moving it to March.
Yeah, I'm hoping it turns out for the better.
I think it will.
Especially like having to go to Vegas in the middle of July or beginning of July, just in that
I'm
heat.
not going to miss that.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, if a retailer, like I try to book the hotel, the room at that same hotel where the trade show is, so you don't have to go outside or at least minimize your exposure to that heat.
Right.
But
it's
I'm
very
excited.
Convenient.
Yeah, I'm excited about that move in March, and then seeing what happens, with the return to New Orleans, especially during that time of year. That's nice too, with the weather and all.
That's going to be nice, but it's a busy time in New Orleans during that time of year.
Yeah,
so it'll be
a lot of festivals
coming
pop
out of
up.
the end of Mardi Gras too, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean there is a little lull like during the Lent, but it's I guess right before like peak festival season, because usually in April you'll have like French Quarter Fest, which is like a big festival in the French Quarter. Then you have Jazz Fest, but it's still kind of quiet enough, I guess. We can do our business and not just be overcrowded.
What'll be interesting, I mean, is just the logistics of it, I guess. lodging, not only for the manufacturers and the sales reps, but for all the customers coming to attend the actual convention. Restaurants, Vegas, everything is kind of like centralized, so everything is like not too far away. But I think it'll work out. I mean, it's not the first time they do it in New Orleans, so.
Yeah. But it will be the first time since, I guess, the last time they had the show. I think maybe it was 2013. They've done a lot of improvements in that corridor since then. So I'm hoping that it'll be to the benefit, of the cigar trade show.
I think it'll be well received.
What I'm curious though is, like, with the smoking, I guess they were able to secure an exemption.
Normally, what they do is they pay a fine.
Oh, okay.
So that you can smoke in the venue. That's why they only allow you to smoke from the time the show starts, and you're supposed to stop smoking when the show ends, at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would imagine it's going to be the same thing, because I know during COVID, there were a lot of people that were upset when they went to one of the trade shows in Vegas, because they were basically telling people you have to keep your mask on, but you can smoke, and it just didn't make any sense. But I think it'll be okay. I think as long as people are allowed to smoke in there. I mean, it is a cigar convention. I mean, you want to smoke when you're doing business, and especially if you're buying new brands and stuff like that. You want to try them out before you place your order. It makes complete sense.
You guys have attended TPE, right? That's the other big trade organization or show?
We started attending. We used to attend many years ago, and then we stopped. We got invited and decided to go back in 2020, which was the first time we went back in many years, which was in January of 2020. And like a couple of months later, basically the whole country shut down because of COVID. But we went in 2020 not knowing what to expect, and we had a very good show, and it was a nice, pleasant environment to work in. The premium cigar section had expanded quite a bit.
Okay.
And it continues to grow. We still have been going every year since 2020, and every year continues to be a better year for us. And, it's a unique show because you don't get a lot of the clientele that normally go to PCA that attend that show, and we're able to capture business from the clientele that have like
C-stores,
smoke shops, that do vape, hookah, carry premiums and stuff like that. And we've opened a lot of new accounts by being able to have exposure to that market.
Yeah. Do you think it's worth it for a premium retailer like us to attend TPE?
Yeah, I mean, most companies offer deals during TPE, similar to the PCA deals. So yeah, I mean, and TPE has become very aggressive, from what I understand, as far as offering retailers incentives to go and attend the show. Especially from the premium cigar side, I've heard they pay airfare, lodging, meals, the whole 9 yards, just to get you to go over there and experience the show and see it.
Yeah.
So because of that, they've had a good turnout.
Okay.
And we do have a good amount of customers that attend PCA that attend TPE also. But most importantly, we capture that business that we wouldn't capture if we just attended PCA.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe some of our listeners and obviously a lot of our clients, they typically choose a premium or like a tobacconist, like a full service tobacconist.
Right.
But I'm always intrigued by the C-store segment, the bulk or tobacco outlet type of retailer. Because I guess they move volume, right?
Oh, they absolutely.
I mean, it's definitely, if one is a manufacturer,
absolutely,
one has to consider that segment too, not just your mom and pop cigar store.
They don't sell more boxes like your traditional tobacconists do.
Okay.
They probably sell more single cigars and multiple loose cigars, as opposed to people going in there on a regular basis. I'm sure some stores that just out of convenience, because they're close to a cigar smoker's home, and they carry the brand that they like, they may go and pop in there just because they're down the street and buy the box. Yeah. But a majority of the sales from interacting and having conversations with some of these store owners are usually either single cigars or multiple singles that they sell. They're not really box stores.
Yeah, I always like to look at that segment just because when I first started in the business, I used to work for a cigar shop who was owned by a large C-store distributor out of Harahan, Imperial Trading.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's where I started, and so I got little exposure to like that side
Right.
of the industry, and I always found that fascinating.
Yeah. And the way they've laid out TPE, since we were on the subject, is actually nice. A lot of people are a little bit hesitant to go because, some of the stuff that you see in there is not appealing to them.
Yeah.
They have cannabis products in there. They have all kinds of stuff. But the way it's sectioned out, it's actually very very smartly thought out. All the premium cigars are in one section. So if you're going there just to deal with premium cigars because that's your business and you're not in the C-dot business or the roll your own business or the hookah lounge or whatever the case is, you can just go in that section of the show, take care of business, and away you go, and you don't have to venture off into no man's land.
Oh.
So it's laid out pretty well.
Yeah, I've kind of heard that. I mean, I'm sure, like, let's be honest, our industry, for the most part, the core value is maybe a little more conservative.
Yeah.
More, I guess, business focused. Not to demean or degrade other industries,
Right.
but I can see how maybe some shop owners would maybe be apprehensive of attending a big expo that maybe has cannabis or hookah, and it's not, it's outside their comfort zone or awareness.
So the way they lay it out is nice because they actually changed the color of the carpet. In the premium cigar section, the carpet where you walk through the walkways is a certain color, and then the rest of the show is a different color. So that when you go in and they give you, the layout of the floor plan of the actual convention, it shows you the area where the premium cigars are. And if you want to venture out into, see the other stuff, then you can. But if you don't want to, or if that stuff is offensive to you, then you don't have to.
And the color of the carpet can kind of like remind you where what section you're in.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What about TAA? Do you guys attend that?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just there at Casa de Campo this year with Arthur representing our company in March.
Okay.
They've changed it around a little bit because traditionally they do their event in March, but now the PCA is moving to March.
Oh yeah.
They're moving their event to October.
Okay.
So next year, my understanding is the TAA convention is going to be in Aruba.
Okay.
Right.
Very cool. Pros and cons of that convention.
It's a different convention because we have most of the manufacturers have an agreement with the organization. So the specials that we run for that group, we have the agreement with them that are exclusive to active members only. So there's about 114 active TAA members. They don't all show up to the convention. A majority of them do.
Okay.
But even if they don't show up, we still offer the extended deals to them as long as they're active members of the association.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a much smaller venue.
Yeah.
Than PCA, which is considered basically the Super Bowl of cigar events.
Yeah. The PCA is the big daddy of them all still.
Right. PCA.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always like how with TAA, and for people who don't know what we're talking about, Tobacconist Association of America.
Correct. Yeah.
Essentially a group, I guess I would consider like the most elite cigar shops in the country.
Right.
Or at least the largest,
the bigger
sellers, I guess, of cigars. Yeah.
Highest volume movers.
Yeah.
Right.
I love how they choose like an exotic destination it seems like every year.
This is the first time, from what they told us this year, that they're doing it in Aruba. So they basically went over there and scouted the property out and made sure that they can smoke and that that the venue could, meet their needs and demands for their convention. And they said a lot of good things about the place. So excited about seeing it. This year's event was at Casa de Campo in the Romana, Dominican Republic.
Okay.
Beautiful property. It's 7,000 square acres. And it's just huge.
Wow.
Monster. They've got one of the top 10 rated golf courses in the world on the actual property. So there's a lot to do, a lot to see there. And it was a nice convention.
How many days is usually the TAA convention? Or at least
we were there for 4 days.
Okay.
4 days.
Okay.
So they have seminars and then they have dinners every night that are usually sponsored by different manufacturers, and there's a lot going on. A lot of round tables that we do. Then they do the Dream Machine, which is one of their.
I've heard of that.
Yeah,
it's legendary. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dream Machine. Yeah.
It was a good experience.
Yeah. And so basically, like talking about the international scene, I know you deal with the national sales perspective, but do you have any insight into the international sales?
Our international sales director is Nelson Cuba.
Okay.
He works out of the same office I do in Miami. Our footprint internationally continues to grow on a daily basis. We're very big in Spain, Germany. We're into Dubai now. We're in Vietnam. We're in Angola. Where you least expect to find our products, we have a footprint.
What about China? Are you guys in China?
We're in certain parts of China, and most of all of our international shipments come out of our bonded warehouse in Germany.
Oh, for the international?
For international sales, yeah.
All out of Germany? Yeah. Even to service Asia?
No,
they have their own, huh?
Out of Asia, it goes through a different route.
I asked because I think I remember years ago when especially social media was kind of burgeoning, Perdomo had, like their national identity, their social media handle. But then I saw like Perdomo Asia, I think. And so I got a sense that Perdomo is a little bit more ahead, a little more progressive on the international sales front.
It continues to grow on a daily basis. It's I mean, we have just in Spain alone, we have a huge representation that represents us in that country, and the products are all doing very, very well.
Okay,
very, very well.
Do you have a sense of like what kind of market share you guys are taking from Cuba?
That's
maybe that data is not really available, but maybe anecdotally or just from like conversations from some of those Spanish
retailers. I can tell
retailers.
You a conversation that I've had with a gentleman that works at in our factory. He's the head of our fermentation department, and
Aristides
Garcia. Yeah. He's 94 years old. He's been in the cigar industry for over 75 years. He started in Cuba, working for one of the Cuban factories, and worked his way up. And then we brought him over to Nicaragua, and he's been the head of our fermentation department. And if you ask him, how do you compare Nicaraguan tobacco to Cuban tobacco today? And he'll tell you, and I had that same exact conversation with him. His reply to me was, our Nicaraguan tobacco that we grow here in our farms today has nothing to envy even the best Cuban tobacco from 30 years ago.
I asked him that question on a trip.
Yeah.
Because I wanted that insight. Like, since he's like probably one of the few people who worked the cigar industry in Cuba before the revolution,
yes,
during and after, and then now he's in the present Nicaraguan scene.
Right.
So with that in mind, I wanted to question him, like, if you can be honest, how do you compare Nicaraguan tobacco today compared to Cuban tobacco before the revolution, right? Which is when I'm assuming maybe the quality was at its zenith, at its height.
At its peak, yes.
Right?
Right.
And the reason, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or Francis, if you have insight, the reason Cuba today still has the appeal and the brand image and reputation is because of the old Cuban families that were there before.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's just when the revolution occurred and that disruption where it scattered all the families, they were the ones with the knowledge,
right,
and took them to places like the DR or Honduras or Nicaragua.
Right.
So I wanted to get a sense, from him, and that was essentially his response was, look, I think Nicaragua today is superior even to the Cuba before the revolution.
Right.
So I found that pretty profound.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, I think that the Cubans are still so popular today, if you will, because of the mystique that you can't get them.
Right.
Because of the embargo.
The forbidden apple, yeah.
Right, exactly. But then when you finally, when people finally say, I finally got my hands on a Cuban, and they smoke, they're like, well, this is not what I expected. So, it's different, completely different. I mean, nowadays over there with the economic situation being what it is, they don't have the same resources that we have in Nicaragua. Also, we grow on 3 different regions over there in Nicaragua, in Esteli, Jalapa, and Condega.
Okay.
Which are in valleys. So the soil in those lots is very rich in nutrients because a lot of that soil is volcanic soil. It's very high in the minerals and the nutrients that tobacco plants need to thrive and be lush.
Yeah, because tobacco, just the plant itself, they take a lot from the earth, right?
Yes.
So they need a lot of, like, I guess, that source of food for them.
Correct.
And that's what I've kind of learned is that a lot of the tobacco growing operations are in very rich, fertile, or at least the best growing tobacco, or at least more flavorful, comes from those volcanic regions.
Yeah.
Do you know? Could you give me a summary of maybe some of the, I guess, like the profiles from each region? So you mentioned Condega, Esteli, and Jalapa.
Right. So Jalapa is our strength tobacco. That's usually what gives our tobacco the flavor and the most power. Uh, that's Esteli, I'm sorry. And Jalapa is more aromatic.
Okay.
And then Condega is more combustion tobacco, which we use for binders.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned how many acres? 1,800?
Almost 1,900 acres.
1,900?
Yeah, between the 3 regions.
And is that mostly owned in-house, or do you outsource, maybe get contracts from farmers who own that land? How does that work?
We own a great majority of our farms out there in Nicaragua, and then there are some that we lease.
Okay.
Also. Right.
Because I went to, I think it was Finca Natalie.
That's one of our biggest farms.
Yeah.
Right.
The Nick took us. Yeah.
We have another one. The most recent one is Finca Janine, which was named after his wife, Janine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with Finca Natalie. At least the second time I went, where they had just built, I guess, this water treatment or
It's a drip irrigation system.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we have a river bed that comes across the back of that particular plot of land. And this is made by a company out of Israel.
Okay.
And it actually is a drip irrigation system that we're able to actually control the nutrients that are being sent to each individual plot of land within Finca Natalie. Because the entire farm is broken down into plots, and we use technology. We use these sensors that are actually buried into the ground.
Wow.
That tell us each particular plot of land what nutrients are lacking, and then we can drip irrigate those nutrients to those specific areas. So like if this particular area here is low on potassium and this one's high on potassium, there's no need to give this area more potassium. We give this area more potassium.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Wow. So basically, Perdomo, the operation, can really create consistent results
Absolutely.
in doing so.
Yep.
Wow. Because I guess from what I've heard, at least even with like the wine or grape region industry, maybe some of these businesses don't execute that amount of control or consistency with those plots. So, I mean, a lot of these operations, whether it's the tobacco or grape industry, you kind of have to like, all right, let's see what each little lot or micro lot does.
Right.
Or what the results,
It's a big investment.
Yeah.
I mean, those drip irrigation systems are a lot of money, but it works the best because when you're irrigating your tobacco plants, you can use your regular sprinkler type irrigation, but then what happens is the water lays on the wrapper leaves and it stains and blotches the wrappers, and this just actually drips right into
from below
root of the plant.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's why with certain cigars, if I get a cigar and I see like these little color
spots and stuff like
is that why?
It could be because water sat on it, or it could be a variety of different things, but water will blotch your wrapper leaf on your cigar.
Yeah. And I remember when Nick was, showing us that system, I mean, he said it, I think, perfect. I mean, and what better company than an Israeli company, right? With their environment that's so dry,
Right.
They're masters of just harnessing and controlling water,
So this river that's right behind the lot feeds the water to the holding tanks in the drip irrigation system. It goes through a triple phase filtration system, and then from there it gets fed from different tanks with different fertilization formulas,
or whatever nutrients you need, or
to whatever areas it's necessary.
Okay. Wow. No, that's pretty cool. And that was really the first time I've heard of any operation doing that. Maybe there are some others I just don't know, but and that's what I appreciate about Perdomo too. They're so transparent, so informative about every step of the process. And I was just telling you, I was watching some of his social media stuff. I mean, there's some insights that I learned from there, even having been in the industry for as long as I have.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we do the factory tours, you'll hear some folks that they may have been on other tours or whatnot. And they ask, is it okay if we take pictures? Is it okay if we take videos? And, yeah, take all the pictures and all the video you want. There's no secrets here. This is how we make our product. We're not, hiding anything. We want to show. That's the purpose of the tour. We want you to see everything from seed to ash, the entire operation.
And I guess then that result of this education is just a more or better appreciation for the product.
The product and the industry as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's just impressive. And, one of the things I hear from our Perdomo clients is just constant positive reviews, especially in the construction. Like, one thing I always hear about is from customers, like the big plus for smoking a Perdomo cigar is, man, like, I just know like the draw is going to be perfect. The construction is going to be great. Right. Because I know like for every blend, every company, there's a fan and a critic.
Right.
You know, and it's usually for the flavor, right? Maybe some people don't like vanilla or some people don't like chocolate.
Right.
But in cigars, the same thing. You know, I don't like the characteristics of company A, but I like company B.
Right.
But with Perdomo, like a major takeaway for positives is the construction of a Perdomo cigar too.
We have real strict quality control steps along the production process. We have actually 18 different quality control steps along the process from the time that the cigar starts being made until it's finished and boxed, ready to ship out.
Mm-hmm.
At any point in any one of those 18 steps, if something does not pass inspection, that cigar will never get banded and placed in a box. We take extra steps. Other manufacturers do draw test their cigars. I can't speak for whether they do 100% of the cigars in their box. I can tell you, us as a company, every single cigar that's in a box has been draw tested, and it will not get banded and placed inside of a box and go to a retail store if it has not passed draw testing, which is, it's an extra step, which takes a little bit longer, but it ensures that quality and that, the dependability of the cigar that's not going to canoe on you or burn incorrectly or give you any problems when you're smoking it.
So if I'm listening to this, and I'm a first-time smoker, what line do you recommend for Perdomo?
If you're a first-time smoker, I would point you in the direction of our 10th anniversary Perdomo Champagne.
Mm-hmm.
That is a brand that's been on the market now for about 23 years, and it's our #1 best-selling line as a company. If you ask Nick about the Champagne line, he'll tell you that that's the line that put Nicholas and Natalie through college.
Yeah.
So it does really well. It's our workhorse as a brand. It's a nice entry point cigar for a new smoker because the binders and fillers are still Nicaraguan from our farms, but the wrapper is Ecuadorian Connecticut shade wrapper that we source, and it rounds out the cigar. And by exposing somebody to that as their first cigar, it opens up their palate to the point to where they can smoke anything inside your humidor, where as opposed to starting them on something very mild. Without mentioning any other, names.
Yeah, and there's brands that I think of that are almost airy.
Exactly.
Like no flavor at all.
And then you try to transition them from that being their first cigar to a Nicaraguan or a Honduran, it's going to make them sick.
Yeah.
So by starting with something like a light shade wrapper, a Connecticut Champagne cigar from our 10th anniversary line, it opens up their palate to where they can try different blends from ours or from other manufacturers, and it's not going to make them sick and ruin their experience.
I feel like the Champagne was one of the first of those like new age or contemporary Connecticut blends or shade blends, right? Where especially like the like coming out of Nicaragua, where it's not just airy, no flavor. It's still mild, very clean, but it has like a little bit more body than like one of those airy, mild cigars.
It does, and that's because of the binders and fillers from the Nicaraguan soils that are so rich in minerals and nutrients. A funny story is that with the Champagne series, it was actually the first Nicaraguan cigar using Nicaraguan binders and fillers to ever have a Connecticut shade wrapper applied to it. And when Nick and his dad were developing the blend and they were coming out with them, a lot of people were telling him, "Oh, you guys are crazy. It's never going to sell because the binders and fillers are too strong.
They're going to outpower the.
And they're going to outpower the flavor of the wrapper." And fast forward, 31 years later, almost 32 years later, it's our #1 best-selling brand line. It's been on the market for almost 24 years now.
Yeah, and that cellophane, that distinct color, it looks like a bottle of champagne.
Absolutely.
Is that? Do you guys have a patent on that? Because I'd you know how many copycats there are in the industry. I'm surprised like no one else has done like other colored cellophanes.
There are other people that do colored cellophanes, but the problem with the cellophanes is because we experimented with it many years ago. Is the yellow gold cellophane that we use on our Champagne line is what best shows the wrapper on that particular cigar. But there's other cellophanes that people use like grays and reds and stuff like that, and it actually distorts the look of the cigar, and it actually makes the cigar look less appealing. That's why a majority of manufacturers use the clear cellophane.
Yeah, and that's another step in Perdomo that they do that's vertically integrated is you make your own cellophane.
Right.
The little sleeves that cover the cigar.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's just, to me, powerful, right? That if you can control that, you're not having to rely on another supplier for cellophane.
Absolutely. We even make our own hinges for our boxes.
What?
Yeah. If you look at our boxes and you look at the hinges, they say Perdomo on them. We make them.
Wow.
We do everything.
Try to do everything
We
in
try
house.
to do everything.
You know,
the less you have to depend on other people, the better things go for you.
Look, I asked Nick during one of those tours, like, Nick, you're so vertically integrated. Why don't you produce your own bands? And he was telling me, oh man, like to invest in that machinery is an investment. I mean, we're talking about maybe millions.
The printing press that they use is a little less than $5 million.
Whoa.
A little less than $5 million. And it's an expensive investment. It's an expensive investment. Then you have to train personnel on how to use it.
Service the machine if it breaks.
Service the machines, yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure a lot of those machines, I don't know if you have insight, are probably European based, maybe German.
A lot
or
of them
Dutch.
My understanding, a lot of them are German based.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess, to your point, most cigar companies, they just rather outsource that.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, man, if a company could control that, now you just.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And not only are you dealing with a printing press, but then you're dealing with all the chemicals and the paper stock that you have to keep in stock for the bands, for the vistas, for the shelf talkers, for the art on the outside of the boxes. It's very tedious.
Yeah.
Very tedious.
Yeah. Well, let's switch up gears. Let's learn about you. You said you were in law enforcement.
Yes.
When did you have your first cigar? Do you remember?
First cigar I was 19.
Okay.
I was 19 when I first smoked a cigar.
You always lived in Florida?
Born and raised down there in South Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember the brand you smoked?
Yeah, I do. It was a Padron 1000 series that I bought from a cafeteria, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. What were your thoughts of it initially?
I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. I've never smoked cigarettes.
Okay.
My grandfather was a big cigar smoker. And, growing up as a kid, I always saw him smoking cigars and stuff, and it was always appealing to me. And one day I was in a cafeteria just buying coffee, and I saw the cigars there, and I'm like, let me have one of those.
Just on a whim?
Yeah.
And just because, like, subconsciously, like, you saw your grandfather smoking while you were growing up. Yeah.
So I cut it, lit it, and I didn't smoke the whole cigar. I think I smoked.
Did you inhale any of it?
No.
Okay. So you knew, like, techniques.
I knew better than that.
Yeah.
So I smoked, I think, about half of the cigar, maybe. And then, I was like a little lightheaded. And it was my first cigar. Right. I was 19 years old still. So it was an experience. And then I started venturing out and trying different brands and whatnot. And, fast forward there for a bunch of years, I smoked predominantly Maduros.
Okay.
And then probably over the last 6 or 7 years now, I smoke more sun-grown. And, usually if I smoke Connecticut, it's usually on a clean palate, first cigar of the day. Maduros, usually if I smoke them, it'll be later at night or after like a hearty meal or something like that. But my go-to blends usually are the sun-growns. I
found that's kind of like the typical cigar journey for people, for smokers, especially like if you start young. Like I started, I hate to say it, but when I was 16. But when I was young or in my 20s, I would just only want to smoke the full body, just, explode, just strength,
double
right?
Maduros,
yeah,
and then as you can get them.
Yeah, but then as I grow older, and I've grown, it's like, no, I don't care about the strength. I want just something that's very smooth, very clean, more elegant. I don't need that power, right?
Right.
And I remember some manufacturer told me, this is just a little anecdote, just kind of reminded me of this, that that someone asked him, like, why do you only smoke your mild cigars? And why do you only push that? Why don't you push the strong cigars? Well, his was also an economic reason. In order to get more turnover from people, you want them smoking more mild cigars because they can smoke more multiple in a day.
Of course, yeah.
If all they're smoking is just strong, they might only smoke maybe one or two a day, and that's it.
Yeah, and after that, your palate basically is not going to be able to differentiate between one cigar and another.
Yep, that too.
If it's that strong.
So I just always found that very curious. Like, oh, well, I guess there's like a business side, like why push the milder cigars? But no, it reminds me of Aristides. Is he still smoking his 10 plus, 12 plus?
Oh, yeah, closer to 20.
Is it 20 now?
He's like a chimney.
Just always a cigar in his mouth,
Constantly going. Constantly going. Still, when we do the tours, he still does a hand-rolled cigar for every person attending the tour and gifts the person a cigar. Yeah, he's doing good. Yeah. He's doing good.
So what was it like growing up in South Florida? Pros and cons?
It was interesting. I mean, it was South Florida went through a spurt in the early '80s when you had a lot of people that came over from Cuba during the Mario boat lift in '83. So Miami was a small town prior to that, and then after the early '80s, when a lot of these people came into town, you started to see a lot of money flowing into the area, not necessarily from good sources, but
I've seen the documentary, the movies of Cocaine Cowboys.
Right. So it built itself up to be a huge downtown area, and a lot of money came into the area. So you saw a lot more businesses coming up and stuff like that. And it was an interesting time, but I basically I went to high school down there. When I graduated from high school, I decided I'm either going to go in the military or I'm going to go into law enforcement. And ever since I was little, law enforcement intrigued me, and I had other friends that were in law enforcement. So I went in the academy when I was 18, graduated when I was 19, and for 28 years I worked. I started my career in the city of Homestead Police Department. I worked there for about 5 years. I was there for Hurricane Andrew, which was an experience I don't care to relive. Yeah. And then in '94, I went to the city of Hialeah, which is where I stayed until 2013 when I retired.
I know Homestead. Yeah, that's the city right before the last on the mainland before the Keys, huh?
Correct.
Yeah. Yep. I take a trip every year with friends. We go every August. We take the drive from New Orleans all the way down the Keys.
To Key West all the way to the end?
We stay in Marathon, typically.
Okay. Nice area.
Yeah.
Good fishing out there.
Yeah, and we go for lobster, but I'll bring my spear gun too, so we'll do some of that. But
mini season?
No, we've never done that.
Okay.
We've always been curious, and we've heard from the locals, because I've been doing it for 5 years now. A lot of locals have they have their thoughts about it, mini season, right? Like,
it gets a little crazy.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what it's like during mini season, but we go usually like a week after, or at least a week after the first opening. Yeah, of the regular season. So. But you mentioned Homestead. Like, wait, I know Homestead. Like, there's usually one gas station we stop. I know there's like a couple cigar shops right in that little area. I don't know their names. I've never been there. I think there's one that's part of a Denny's, and then another one more south in like some other strip mall. Yeah. What's the cigar scene like in Miami? I mean, people, I guess, who aren't cigar smokers, they've heard of like, man, South Florida is synonymous with cigars, right?
There's some nice. We believe it or not, a lot of people think when you go to Miami that's cigar central basically. But for many years there was a lack of like good high end lounges down there in the area, and then over the last, I would say, 10 years, a lot of them have popped up that are really nice. Even as recent as last year, they had one that opened up that was in Doral. That's a very nice lounge.
Okay.
But there's a lot of culture, a lot of history down there. You go to Little Havana, there's a lot of cigar shops down there, and they have live music, they have the culture, the history and stuff there. And there's any weekend that you go down there to that Little Havana area, it's buzzing with tourism and people going into the cigar shops, and they can buy a cigar, sit down, get a drink, listen to some live, music playing, from a band from back in, music from back in the day from Cuba and whatnot. Yeah, and it's a good experience. It's really nice out there. A lot of history back there, in very similar to like Ybor City, basically.
I was gonna bring that up.
A lot of history.
I consider Tampa and Miami like the two twin cities of cigars in Florida, and I always wonder, is there like some rivalry between the two towns in that regard? I know with the Cuban sandwich, some people swear like, oh no, Tampa's is better, or no, Miami's is better.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on it? I know you might have a bias, but
I'll stay with Miami. I'll stay with Miami. It's my hometown. It's where I'm from. I know it. Right. I know it well. I mean, Ybor City has some really nice shops, and there's a lot of history there as well. But I'm a Miami boy. I'm born and raised and loyal to Miami.
Yeah. What's your favorite place to get a Cuban sandwich from in Miami or South Florida? Do you have one?
Sandwich?
Yeah, Cuban sandwich. Yeah.
Latin America.
Okay. So I should put that on my list. Latin America.
Yeah. Latin America. There's another place that's actually close to our office. It's called Casa Habana. Okay. They have some really good sandwiches there too. Okay. Traditional Cuban style sandwiches.
Yeah, usually on our route for the Keys trip, and it's like very like structured. Right. Sometimes we'll have lunch in Miami, but lately we've been going down to Key Largo. Okay. To have our lunch on that Saturday. But I don't know if you know the spot called Romeo's. Mm-hmm. I love that spot for just good Cuban food.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I can't get enough of the Cuban cuisine and that style. Yeah. You know, we just don't have that here in Louisiana.
Well, the city of Hialeah, where I worked at and as a police officer for many years, is predominantly a Cuban people that live in the area, and there's a lot of good Cuban restaurants there. So for so many years, you know, Cuban food, I got a little burned out on it, but I still enjoy a good Cuban sandwich or a good Cuban meal.
Yeah.
You know.
And then I just remember going to Cuban Crafters. I just love the scene there where as soon as you walk in, you get your Cuban coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Your little espresso.
Still the same way.
Yeah.
Still the same way.
And I wish we had that here, is that, I mean, believe it or not, New Orleans does have a focus. We have our own coffee culture.
Right.
But it's different. It's, I don't know if you're familiar with like a lot of the regular drip coffee.
Right.
Has like some blends. If it's a New Orleans blend, it has this, I guess it's like an herb or root called chicory.
Chicory, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah. I've had chicory coffee before.
What's your favorite Florida coffee? La Llave or what's the other one that you guys have?
You hit it right on the head.
Is it La Llave?
That's all I use at home.
And how do you prefer it? You do it drip or you do mocha, espresso?
I do it espresso.
Okay.
I do it espresso. That's like the treat at home on the weekends. Is I make for everybody. I make the Cuban espresso shots, and then I make the café con leche.
Oh yeah.
For breakfast in the mornings.
Yeah.
Saturdays and Sundays. That's the highlight of the weekend.
Yeah. That's my favorite. If I just had to choose one drink to pair with a cigar, it's any coffee.
Oh yeah.
Beverage, whether it's even drip or espresso.
Yeah. So
yeah, I just love that about South Florida, is just they get the pairing of the two, the cigars and the coffee.
Right.
Trying to think what else, but yeah, no, I love South Florida, but I always wondered if there was like some little rivalry between like Tampa and Miami, especially like who's like the better or does it better in terms of like the Cuban culture.
Depends on who you ask, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm still partial to Miami. I'll stick to Miami.
Well, awesome. Well, look, I think this will conclude. We have one final segment. If you want to do me a favor, it's a rapid fire round of questions. So if you would indulge me. Number 1, Tabasco, Crystal, or other hot sauce?
Crystal.
You like Crystal? You know Crystal?
Better than Tabasco.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Number 2, favorite travel or vacation destination?
I'm going to say probably Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the mountains.
Okay. Yeah, totally changed from like South Florida.
Complete different change, especially when there's snow on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 3, who would you want to smoke a cigar with, alive or deceased? If you could pick any one person.
I'd probably say Winston Churchill.
Okay. Let's see. Number 4, the question typically is, what's your desert island cigar? So I kind of frame it differently for like cigar industry people. What's your desert island cigar from your own company, from Perdomo? And what's your desert island cigar from some other brand, other company?
From Perdomo, I'd probably say it's what I'm smoking right now, our 20th anniversary Sun-Grown. It happens to be one of my favorite blends that we make. I smoke everything that we make, but it's one of my favorite blends that we make. I smoke at least one a day. From another company, I recently tried some cigars from Nick Melillo, Tabernacle, and I was very impressed with some of the blends that he's coming out with. And I'd probably say that would be my second choice if it was from another brand.
Very good. And then last question, who would you want to see on a future podcast here?
Nick Perdomo.
There you go. Well, hopefully maybe you can help us with that,
I'll put a good word in for you.
And look, we'll tell him
to know him.
Yeah, well, and look, we'll tell him, we'll make it worth your while. We can do a big sales event, so it can kind of justify the travel.
Okay, excellent.
So no, that'd be awesome.
Great.
Well, look, Ralph, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time and discussing Perdomo and yourself. So, and look, for anyone who's interested in Perdomo, check us out at shop.habanaport.com. Thanks for tuning in. Until the next smoke, we'll see you later.